So deep in Ethiopia, on the Blue Nile, there's this incredible feat of engineering, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. It's Africa's biggest hydroelectric project, but for more than a decade now, it's also been the center of some pretty intense regional tension. In this explainer, we're going to dive into how some 21st century tech might just be the key to solving this ancient conflict over water. This whole thing really boils down to two completely different, almost opposite points of view. For Ethiopia, this dam is a huge symbol of national pride, of development, of energy independence. But for the countries downstream, Egypt and Sudan, it looks like a potential threat to their very existence, the water from the Nile. And these two perspectives are really at the heart of the whole dispute. So let's get the basic facts on the table. We're talking about a massive structure on the Blue Nile, which is the main tributary that feeds the Nile River itself. As of September 2025, it's up and running, fully operational. The turbines are spinning, power is being generated. But the diplomatic gears, well, they're still kind of stuck, struggling to get any traction even after years and years of talks. Now, to really get why the solution we're going to talk about is so clever, you first have to understand just how high the stakes are for everyone involved. This isn't just about some abstract policy debate. For them, it's about survival, it's about national ambition. It's this fundamental clash between Ethiopia's need for electricity and its neighbors' total dependence on that water. Okay, so for Ethiopia, their argument is simple. The dam is just for hydropower. It generates electricity, but it doesn't actually use up the water. But for Egypt, which is really haunted by the idea of a drought, they're terrified that filling this giant reservoir and then running the dam could cause catastrophic water shortages. And then you have Sudan, kind of caught in the middle. I mean, they could actually benefit from better flood control, but they're also really worried about the dam's day-to-day operations messing with their water flow. Just let that number sink in for a second. Over 90%. That one statistic pretty much explains everything you need to know about why this is such an existential issue for Egypt. When almost your entire country's water comes from a single source, any project that might change its flow isn't just a problem. It's seen as a direct threat to national security. So for years, right, the diplomats have basically been hitting a brick wall. They've had it round after round of negotiations, and none of it has led to a binding deal. But now there's a different way of thinking that's starting to take hold. It's an approach that tries to shift the whole focus away from political horse trading and toward cooperation built on data and technology. And that brings us to the real heart of the problem. A problem that's getting more and more urgent as climate change makes rainfall and river flows super unpredictable. So how do you actually forge a solution that's fair, that's going to last, when the stakes are this high and the future is so uncertain? The answer? Well, it's about shifting the whole conversation away from suspicion and political drama and instead building it on a solid foundation of objective, verifiable, and most importantly, shared information. Okay, so you can think of this whole tech approach as a kind of toolkit, a toolkit for building trust. And it's built on three main pillars, and each one is designed to bring the temperature down and create a situation where hopefully all three countries can actually come out ahead. So here's the game plan, broken down into 3 steps. First, you create total transparency using open data. Second, you use the power of artificial intelligence to predict what might happen in the future. And third, you use technology to actually reduce how much water is needed downstream in the first place. Let's break each of those down. All right, so pillar number 1 is all about getting everyone on the same page, creating a shared reality, if you will. Just imagine a totally transparent system where Ethiopia shares real-time data on everything: how much water is in the reservoir, how much is flowing in, how much is being let out, how the turbines are working. This would immediately replace all that fear of the unknown with cold, hard facts that everyone can see. But you might be asking, how do you actually trust the data? How do you know it hasn't been messed with? That's where a technology like blockchain is so important. Think of it like a shared digital logbook. Every bit of data that gets entered is sealed and chained to the entry before it. Once it's in there, everyone can see it and no single person can change it. It creates a source of truth that all sides can actually rely on. And this isn't just theory, okay? The results are real. Studies have shown that with this kind of coordinated system, Ethiopia could generate a whopping 87% of the dam's maximum power output, all without causing major water problems downstream, even in dry years. It's proof that working together actually creates a better result for everybody. Okay,
Pillar 2 is where things get really cool. We're moving from just looking at what's happening now to predicting the future. By feeding AI models tons of climate data and real-time forecasts, you can run thousands of simulations, especially for worst-case drought scenarios, and figure out the absolute best way to run the dam to keep all three countries safe. Think about it. If you're stuck with a rigid, old-school operating plan during a drought, well, that could spell disaster downstream. But an AI-optimized plan, it's dynamic. It can make small, smart adjustments in real time to keep the river's flow nice and stable. It basically replaces heated political shouting matches with cool, scientific advice.
And the third pillar, this one attacks the problem from a completely different angle. Instead of just managing the supply of water, what if you could reduce the demand? Things like precision drip irrigation can cut water use in farming by 50%. You combine that with wastewater recycling, maybe some solar-powered desalination, these tools build up resilience and make countries less dependent on this one single source of water.
So this all sounds amazing, right? Almost too good to be true. But here's the catch. You can have the most advanced, brilliant tools in the world, but they're totally useless if nobody's willing to actually use them. The biggest hurdle here isn't technical, it's political. At the end of the day, technology can light up the path forward, but it can't force any leaders to actually walk down it. After a decade of failed talks, there's just so much deep mistrust and nationalism that make it incredibly hard to find a compromise. The biggest bottleneck remains that political will. And getting past this roadblock isn't just about hoping for the best. Any agreement they make can't just be another vague promise. It has to be a legally binding treaty that's actually built around these tech protocols we've been talking about. And, the role of international banks that helped fund the dam, well, that just adds another layer of complexity to the whole thing. So where does all this leave us? Well, the potential for a real breakthrough is right there on the table. This data-driven way of thinking offers a genuine shot to turn what's been a zero-sum conflict into a real model for how to cooperate in the 21st century. What this really boils down to is that data can be the neutral referee in a game where everyone feels like the other side is cheating. It helps take the national security label off the issue and turns it into what it really is, a shared logistics problem. It becomes a resource management puzzle that smart people from all three countries can sit down and solve together. The tools are there, the data exists, the models are ready to go. In a conflict that's been defined by a physical river of water, the solution might just be found in a digital river of data. The only question left is whether the political will is finally there to embrace it.